Hey guys, I'm Melhorn. Have you ever wondered what's inside the Catfish Pro 600 CTS bait casting reel? Stay tuned, we're gonna look inside. Yes guys, this reel has been through the paces. I ran it a couple of years ago on my boat for a pretty good while, and man, you can tell it has held up well, still working good, still got some backer line on it from when I had it spooled up there. It's got catfish slime all over it. It's a sturdy reel, held up good. Biggest complaint with it that I had, like I've had with several of these lower price, more moderately priced, more affordable level line bait casting reels, is that right there, that handle. It's not bad, it's a pretty good length from the center out to the outer edges, but I wish they would put a power handle on these things. I spoke to the owner about it and said, hey, it may be worth the money to do it. I think you'll sell more of them. People like power handles on reels. But hey, we're just looking at the outside. What's on the inside of this thing? How does it compare? Let's tear it apart, see what's inside of it, see if you like what you see. One thing about some of the ones that have been used, it can be a little bit harder to get some of these screws undone. That one we got off of there. That little retainer piece off of there. As I've said with most of these things, they all kind of go together and come apart pretty much the same. Pop that nut loose there. Bam. One day, I've said this too, we're going to tear these apart and see what parts are interchangeable. Again, they got a lot of very similar parts. This one, like the other ones, has this little locking C-clip right here. It's easy to lose, hard to find, so try to put your hand or something behind it when you go to pop it off. Some of them come off easier than others. This one is on the harder than others side, but once you get it started, you're okay. Boom, boom. Pulls your handle off, that's free to go. And like I've said before, when you pull these little things off, like washers, drag washers, that kind of stuff, try to put them down on the table into the position that they go on. Just make sure you get them in the right direction that way. And what you're gonna do is thread this off. As I've said before, I'm not an expert, I'm not a real mechanic, but I can get one apart. There's probably some better people out there that you can learn from on how to tear these things apart properly. Get to this point, we've got these little screws here. Pop those loose, boom. Sadly, none of these parts are screw-wise or like really interchangeable. It'd be nice if they were. It would be nice if this screw and the one that holds the retaining bracket on the handle were the same, but they're not. Slightly different size, and again with these, all you gotta do is just bust these loose here. It's a little bit tighter. Once they're busted loose, they've got you can get your thumb on there and pull them off. This one does have a handle here for knocking it out of gear and into gear. All of them are different. Some have a handle, some have a push button, some have a paddle back here on the back. All just vary slightly. Get that apart. Bam. Bam. Got all kinds of stuff falling out there. There we go. Drag washers. We got a little bearing that came out. Boom. Get the drag washers back in line to go back on there. Pow. I think we put this over to this side. That's going to come out. Probably should have tore off this side first. Probably would have went smoother. Like I said, I'm not exactly a real mechanic here. Real mechanic. Get it? Real, funny, haha. These things can be a little bit intimidating. You really honestly don't have to tear them apart. You know, to clean them, it helps. The grease will start to break down inside of these things after a while. And it's good to get the old stuff out because it gets kind of thick. But there's plenty of people out there that you can send your reels to let them do the dirty work for you. There we go. Now there you can see one big difference, and that's these brakes on this thing, these centrifugal brakes. Some of the other ones we've torn apart. They've had multiple ones, 4, 5, 6 of them. This has 2 of them. So that can be good, that can be bad, depending on what your casting abilities are and how much you want to thumb brake it. These little things here, this came off of right there. Again, different reels go together differently. They got some different parts. This whole assembly here comes off. I'm gonna pull it off that way. We'll start with this frame, taking a look at it. Typical frame build of most of these things, the one exception being the Abu Garcia Chrome Rocket. A lot heavier build on it, a lot sturdier frame. The one cool thing about this is right here, the way this reel seat attaches to the reel itself. It actually attaches, a lot of these have a bar or 2 bars that go across. These here are attaching by some screws that actually go into the side of the frame, which I think is kind of interesting. It looks like, and I don't know this for a fact, it actually could be a sturdier mount, a sturdier assembly. Take more torque and torsion on there. If I had some extras, I would try to tear them, put it see how much stress they could take, but I like fishing with this thing, so I'm going to keep it around and keep it in one piece. Again, typical worm gear, level line going across here. I'm not sure what kind of pawl fits it, but you know, typical assembly there on that. Now on the other end, inside the end, metal gears again. One of the interesting things we saw in the Abu Garcia Chrome Rocket we did the first time, it had actually plastic. This is the actual gear that it interacts with the level line. It's actually a metal. Again, is it a good metal? Is this metal stronger than the plastic that is in the Abu Garcia? Don't really know. Don't really know what the breaking point is on any of that and which one's better. But this is metal, some quality of metal to be determined, but got that on that side. Again, a lot lighter reel body-wise, just as far as what the components are made out of and the weight of it. Anodized spool there, nice. Anodized on the star drag. People like that. That kind of stuff looks good. Now, here's interesting. A lot of this is very similar to another reel we tore apart. One of the Sunyi Langis, whatever the Chinese reel is. The piece here, it has these springs mounted right here. Rest of it's metal, all metal stuff in here, but this part here, and a lot of these are this way. The Abu Garcia Chrome Rocket, $350 reel. It had plastic assembly in here for holding some of this stuff in place. There's no real wear and tear on this stuff. It's basically holding springs in place. So it's kind of what the guts of this thing looks like. Put together a little bit differently. Again, a very affordable reel as far as fishing reels go. Something you're not going to sink a lot of money into. The big question, as always with all these reels, is can you get parts for them? Where are the parts at? Where can you find the parts? Can you get replacement parts for them? These I don't know. We may do some inquiry into that, and at some point we're going to get into some of these and see how many of these parts are interchangeable, because that right there determines really what the longevity is on having one of these reels.